Hi everyone, welcome to the first episode of Let's Just Watch Everything You Want to Watch. It's a podcast with Grant and I. We've been a couple for 6 years and we sometimes struggle with our movie choices.
Hi everyone, I'm Grant. And as Hayley said, we've been together for 6 years and I've always been a movie fanatic and I kind of just assumed that everyone else on Earth was. I mean, everyone likes movies. I guess as time has persisted, I've learnt that movies are just movies to some people, where they can be the greatest thing on earth to me. And there's some movies I like to share with other people and watch and be able to have a conversation with. And that's part of the reason why we are here where we are right now.
So we opted to do the podcast just as a funny idea because we can sometimes disagree about what movies we should watch and when we watch them, and that's because I can be very disagreeable about movies. I use movies more as entertainment, less as art, or have done less as art, and that sort of interest in them just been mainly just a source of mind-numbing entertainment. I do love movies. I've got movies I love dearly and watch over and over and over and over and over again. So maybe that's why I don't have time for other movies as well.
Busy watching the ones you know
Hey,
that are going to give you what you were looking
exactly.
for, which is just a bit of mindless entertainment.
Exactly. So I guess movies that I might be less interested in are movies that involve sci-fi, aliens, other planets. I think movies... Subtitles are definitely in there. I smoke weed and I don't always want to read a lot, you know? And when I'm watching movies, I'm usually stoned, so that is a good reason to avoid subtitles. The same following, maybe I like a movie around 1 hour 45. If it's over 2 hours, I'm going to balk at that.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. But then I've got movies that I love that are far over that. So I think I like real world scenarios. I like pigeonhole, having just stereotypical movies and maybe not thinking so much. So,
which is funny because you'll love fantastic, weird, bizarre horror. But if you get an inkling that it might be set on another planet
and it's not Jason in space, then we might have a time.
You might be in for a problem.
Yeah.
Until, more often than not, I'd like to say, you watch the film and you end up perhaps having a positive experience with it.
That may have happened.
Once or twice.
Yes. And also movies have led to disagreements. When we watch them, me being difficult and balking at Grant's choices of movies and, there never being the right time to watch that movie, which probably we could touch base on the movie that we chose to do today, which I've successfully avoided for our whole relationship. Is that right?
Yeah, 6 years of avoiding Primer.
Yeah.
I'll say this straight out the gate is this is a spoiler cast. No matter what film we're talking about, from what era, just assume we're going to talk about that movie front to back, inside and out, characters, plots. If you don't want to know anything about a movie you have not seen yet, this is not for you. And that's the only warning you get. I'm never pulling that ever again in this podcast. If you watch it, we're talking about a movie, the end.
So it all came to a head and I made a decision that I was going to bow out of our movie choices. Just for a little while, I think, until I had broken down the buffer that makes me difficult and figured it would be a good way to help with me being so rigid in what I like or want to do, and also help with Grant and I sharing movies together because they're his love, and I think just relinquishing control on working on a project, and also to sort of stop that tension every time we brought up a movie, like watching a movie together. So it's been fun. This has been going on for a while, and yeah, we chose Primer because I've successfully avoided it for so long.
It seems like the shining example of what we're shooting for with this podcast. However, I'd like to give the disclaimer that having sort of set our boundaries of what we're going to talk about and why we're doing this probably isn't the best example of a movie I would push on Hayley these days. Now I have a better understanding of what you do like and what you do avoid. This film is something I've always wanted to watch with you, more as so I can share my conversation and talk to you. So there's another side to the conversation when every time I talk about Primer, I talk about how fantastic it is, whether you pipe in and say, oh my God, that movie was terrible, or whether you pop in and go, oh my God, how many apes and Aarons were there? I like the idea of being able to talk to my partner about the things that I love. I'm not sure if that story completely made sense, but the point was, it's not what I'd perfectly choose for this podcast, but it's an excellent example of a movie that Hayley has been avoiding for 6 years.
I'm a little bit proud. But
so is that where we're up to? Have we summed up everything about the podcast? And
I think so, in the Hows and the Whys. I guess this isn't an opportunity for Grant to make me watch a bunch of shit that I want nothing to do with. He can do that in his own time. It's about him. He's been making really nice choices, and they're choices that are aimed at me. It's, yeah, just to be clear, it's not like a free-for-all in that regard. I would definitely pull the pin if I was watching heaps of subtitles, let me tell you.
Yeah, there's plenty of movies I don't think you'd enjoy that I love, and
that's
I'm
fine.
not trying to yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we should hit Primer then.
Awesome. The time has come. We're finally here, and you've seen it. Oh.
I think that Grant should probably start it off. I know that this, like he said, isn't a good example of one that he would choose aimed at me that, you know, he think that I would love in the end. It's more a passion because he's so inspired by this movie, and I think it's only fair that he kicks off with all the reasons, Hows and the Whys, if he loves Shane's Carruth's Primer.
Oh, way to go, spitting out Shane Carruth. What an amazing tale behind the scenes there is to this film. It's very small in scale. It's this one man, Shane Carruth. He wrote and directed the film. He's the lead co-star of the film. He wrote and recorded all of the sound design music for the film. It's a real auteur's project. For what I understand, it was made with $7,000 with a bunch of people he knew. He taught himself the art of filmmaking just to get out there and put this together. That's my understanding of how this movie came to be. And knowing all of that, loving the film and putting it on a pedestal as one of the greatest time travel films ever made, and I say that as someone who loves time travel concepts and films about that paradox. Having said all that, it was an inspiration for me myself to get off my ass and write and produce my own short films. I was already doing that kind of stuff, but to see the final product of what this one man with a vision and a passion could spit out the other side really impressed me and reminded me and brought to light that a movie doesn't have to be made with $100 million. It doesn't need explosions the size of skyscrapers and costuming departments, and it can just be a well-written story about a couple of humans in a garage wearing ties and collared shirts, and the knots you can tie with those few little elements.
Yeah.
Was that something?
Yes. Which I guess let's start with the time travel aspect. That is a very high on the list of movies I want nothing to do with. This movie had a lot of those points, but I did enjoy it. I wouldn't watch it again, I don't think, or, you know, I'd casually watch it again. I worked hard to keep up. I think I struggle with time travel. I'm not into space physics, the things that I sort of feel that you might help, or passion in that regard. But I did enjoy it. I liked that. You know, in my mind, there was monsters in this movie.
Oh, really?
This is how deluded I am.
Really?
Yeah, I think I've got it
Wow.
confused with that other one, something 9. And it's got monsters in it. Anyway, so I was waiting for a monster until we were maybe probably halfway through, and I realised that wasn't going to happen. And I was
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you're so, because you knew it was about time
District
travel.
9.
District
That's
9.
what I thought it was going to be like that.
Wow, way off.
Oh, I have learnt through this process that I really do create my own concepts of what's in movies, and why I don't want to watch them usually doesn't exist.
So a quick summary of Primer is a group of engineers hanging out together in their garage, and I don't know what they're trying to make, some new form of refrigeration or something that fucks with gravity. They don't know what they're making. They accidentally make something that they don't quite understand. They sit on it for a while, but while they're sitting on it, one of them realizes that perhaps it's a machine that you could build, and in the future you jumped in that machine and you turn up where it was originally made. So you can't time travel to anywhere you want in the universe, or
It's a
time.
loop.
Yeah, it's a loop.
Yeah.
You've got to create the start of the loop, and
Yeah, come back around. Which I thought it was all fairly understandable. I didn't have to ask Grant a lot of questions, I didn't think. And the ones I did were sort of more to confirm what I thought was happening.
I love that the film works as a loop. I know you don't want to watch it again, but I often get to the end of Primer and want to watch it immediately again, because each time I watch it, I realise I'm watching different characters from different timelines at different moments of the film, which I find...
That would warrant totally like a rewatch. I realised that probably 3/4 through, and I was like, oh, fuck, I wish I got that a little bit earlier to see that. Yeah, like how that was working before I noticed.
And I think that perhaps that's an example of something I love about films, where you, correct me if I'm wrong, you may be standoffish. I love the surprise. I love being halfway through a movie and discovering, oh, this isn't the movie I thought I was watching.
Yeah, well, I realised that when there were no fucking monsters, mate. Every time they opened the fucking storage room shed, I was like, where's the monster? Anyway, I'll let that go.
Shane, more monsters in the next movie.
No, I liked that there was no monsters. I can sometimes, yeah, like that. That was the reason why I didn't want to watch it. I loved the characters. I loved that real world aspect. I loved that I liked one and could see that I wasn't going to like the other one too much in the future. And there were also guys that you kind of know, like, you know.
I like that the film doesn't really behave like a normal film, especially dialogue-wise. It plays its own little world about these engineers, and you get a little peek in on them, but they don't make it easy for you to understand what's going on. You just sort of along in the back of the car with them on this trip.
Yeah, you got to keep up a bit. But I was pleased, because it's not, you know, a huge reason why I balk at the movies that or with the things I'm talking about is because it's harder to understand. And I think anyone can relate to that. If you don't understand something, then you can be scared or perturbed by it. But I liked that it was all really small scale, and I wasn't on a fucking ship to some fucking planet that there's a monster on. So that was really nice. Like, I liked that. I liked it. They were reg dudes just trying to get a little break in life, you know. And then they found the protein.
and it all goes a little haywire. I've spent a lot of time with this film. I've watched it a lot of times, and I've read a lot of interviews with Shane, and I've read a lot of dissections of the film, and looked at a million timelines that people have tried to make sense of what Aaron and Abe is where and when and what they're doing. But on top of the knots that the story ties, there's some beautiful parallels in the actual filmmaking. There's a lot of the time, I'm not sure if you noticed, but the camera is on a dolly that's in a circle. The camera is often in its own loop, and we see a lot of shots where the characters are doing loops, whether they're drawing them or they're throwing a basketball around their body, which is another loop. There's all these. There's a theme of loop not only built into the story but built into the presentation of the film, which I find just painfully intelligent. I love. Sorry, I'll just say one more thing. One more shot. It's often shot outside of early in the film, outside the garage through these windows, which almost makes it look science fiction. It looks like you're peeking in on this crew of a spaceship inside of trying to work out what their problem, what their project is. And
yeah, and he uses a filter or something that adds to that. I feel like there's something in the way he's filmed it that makes it look a little older, maybe has a greenish tint or a yellowish tint or something. It's like, but yeah, I know what you mean. I think that added to that. And yeah.
So I guess my point being, it actually does look like a science fiction film in a roundabout way, even though you're really just watching office workers in
but it did have that
spaces.
Like 50s sci-fi thing going on because they were wearing suits and ties and stuff. Like I thought that I was like, this is a bit like a 50s feel, sci-fi feel or something, with that suit tie guy look thing.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of maybe adds to you waiting for a big monster to pop out as well.
Well, probably, because most of the sci-fi movies I have seen are older and of that ilk. Yeah, so...
Isn't it funny to put Primer in the same conversation as something like Alien or Star Wars? Like... So
yeah,
different.
and I guess maybe that's why I did, because, you know, we have spoken about it in the realms of those movies that have monster movies or, you know, other planets and things. So, I was quite shocked when we didn't go anywhere or do anything and there was no monster. And I was like, oh, okay. And I guess that's part of the fun, is that I'm watching movies that I've got all these preconceived notions about, because if it's got another planet or sci-fi, then I'm going to conjure up my own ideas about what it's about. But yeah, his music was quite, it really contributes to the tone that he's setting, that's for sure. Like
some of those ambient synth sounds at the beginning of the film are so unsettling and anxiety driven.
Yeah, but they help with the pace, because I felt like if they weren't there, then it could be more boring, especially because so much of the conversation, you don't know what they're, you know, like it
goes straight over your head.
Yeah,
like, it goes straight over my head.
But
I think that's the point.
Yeah, but the music's there telling you where you need to go, really, or how you need to feel about it.
Yeah,
for the
relax,
next
chill.
bit. Yeah,
we've got you.
Kind of.
Yeah. You're not on sure footing.
Wait till we meet bad Aaron. Yeah, so...
Thank you for finally watching it.
Yeah, I got the monkey off my back and I did it. Like I said, I would watch it again. I'd probably just, you know, maybe sit on my phone a bit more. It's not super gripping like Weekend at Bernie's, or not super quotable like Spaceballs. But we got there. I did it. I definitely rate it as a movie, and I think it's a great film, knowing a bit about where and how it was made, and inspiring in that regards, because it looks fantastic. You know, it's a small setted movie, but you don't feel that. You don't feel trapped and contained. They just keep you where you need to be, and that's with two characters that are really not doing too much. But it gives you lots to think. It gave me lots to think about, and I was really thankful that it was easy enough to just hold on by the skin of my teeth and know what was happening.
I was very curious to watch it with you when it came to the crunch. I was curious how complicated it was and whether you'd go along for the ride. And even though it's not abundantly clear exactly what's happening a lot of the time, whether that would ultimately pay off for you.
Yeah,
But
well,
I think,
it did.
I think
Like,
I found it clearer watching it with you.
Yeah, definitely. I had a pretty good idea of what was going on mostly. I rolled my eyes when we had double characters come into play because... But I ultimately enjoyed that. I think I'm just trying to give everyone a good idea of where I'm coming from and why I've been so obstructive. You know, I don't... I'm not proud, but it's who I am. And yeah.
Well, I think they'll be as difficult as they come in regards to the films that we may watch, but it certainly is not going to be the end of sci-fi, is it?
No, I've got a feeling that there's going to be a lot of sci-fi. I wonder how many will have monsters. Yeah, no, I think sci-fi is going to be pretty heavily featured in the sense of that's what I dodge a lot of. And it's probably really unfair because I feel like there's a lot of sci-fi and there's a lot of sci-fi that I actually do enjoy and probably haven't really recognized it
as being science fiction.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
Because you've got your own ideas that science fiction is laser guns and...
Pew pew!
Yeah, space adventure where...
Yeah.
I'm interested in science fiction more from a philosophical and futurist side of things.
Yeah, and I'm just really practical and real, and that's why I like real world movies that really, you know, that are based in what I know as the world I live in and what looks familiar and, you know, even though... Oh, there's so much horror in that that's so abnormal. But, it, you know, I don't know. I think that talking to friends and whatnot, I feel like it's pretty common.
Yeah, this is another inspiration of the podcast is that pretty much everyone we've talked about this idea with, everyone agrees picking movies in a relationship can be nightmarish.
Yeah.
Or just dismissive.
Well, that's it. And that's when you've got someone who cares more about movies than the other one. And we definitely have friends that are like that. I think, yeah, it just can cause stress. And, you know, I guess this is all just to... If Grant wasn't probably so into film and things like that, it might not be as big a problem. And me... being sort of not into so much of it, you know, but given that it's such a passion of his, it would be, it's nice to share. And it's also nice to go, oh, well, that was embarrassing. I thought there were fucking monsters in it. And that's why I haven't wanted to watch that. So
it wasn't any fucking all monsters.
No, there wasn't. I like the ear bleeds though.
Yeah,
ear
that was
bleeding's
good.
Always nice.
And the handwriting slowly disintegrating.
Yeah. Yeah, and the indications that there were going to be consequences. I liked that.
What the fuck is Aaron going to do with a room-sized machine? Like, or a warehouse size?
Well, I just
like
thought
like...
that made the loop bigger. Like, does that mean you can get a bigger loop of time?
Well, do you get...
Because that's why they got the storage shed.
You can ever go earlier. But you can recycle machines, which they bring up at one point.
They do close to the end, don't they?
Yeah. So you can take... Because they're all modular machines and you put them inside machines. So you may build one and start it. But really, over time, you could accumulate through time travel a multitude of machines that start at that same time. Perhaps. It's the fun of the story that I love. Yeah. What the heck?
What the heck?
Great job, Shane Carruth. I love your movie.
And I didn't mind it.
Which is all I could hope for. Beautiful.
Yeah, so I guess we'll probably do this again.
You've had a positive experience?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, it has been. Like I said, we've been doing this without the podcast for a while, and it has been very revealing and positive. So
You hope to reveal more.
yeah, and I guess maybe just hope to, anyone that is curious about film, just open your mind, just give it a go. You can A, always turn it off, or B, shit on it later, which is what I'll be doing with the ones I don't like. So, and then you might enjoy something, which has definitely happened as well.
So that's us, and that is Let's Watch Everything You Want to Watch. I'm Grant.
I'm Hayley.
Thanks for joining us on our first episode.
Sorry there were no monsters.
And we'll see you at the beginning of this podcast. Primer.